Hello, this is Mr. Cox with another dad story. I'm in my vehicle here, getting ready to go to Walmart, but I wanted to start another podcast here before I go in. So, tonight's going to be this is podcast 3, November the 16th, 2023. And tonight I'm going to start at least part 1, even though it's third podcast, part 1 of we could call it two-wheeled adventures with Mr. Cox or bike riding with Mr. Cox. So I'm going to go back to my childhood a bit before moving on up. So that's why I say it's probably going to be more than one part, so I don't get these too long. But I'm one of those people. I spent a lot of time on my bike as a child, and then later in life, I spent a lot more time on my bike when I got a mountain bike and did all that. And then eventually, because I used to have like this really cool Stingray bike when I was a kid, and then it got sold at some point when I didn't need it anymore, and I got a 10-speed bike. And eventually, I got a mountain bike. I went back to get another Stingray, and couldn't find them in my side that they started making retro bikes. So I went to a bike shop and had them rebuild from a retro frame on a retro touring bike and get the other parts and put together a adult sized Stingray bike. The one I had when I was a kid was green. The one I had built here a few years ago was this kind of like dark cherry red. It's a pretty cool looking bike. So was the one I had when I was a kid. I used to do all kinds of stunts as a kid. So even though I spent a lot of time on the bike and later on mopeds and things like that, the quality of my biking, I had a lot of skills in some ways, but I was always getting in accidents. So that's why I call it biking with Mr. Cox, or riding a bike with Mr. Cox, or riding a two-wheeled vehicle with Mr. Cox. So when I get into the parts about some of the moped accidents I have, it's also pretty cool. It's really kind of a miracle sometimes that I'm alive just from bicycle wrecks, let alone moped wrecks. And you'll see that also runs in my family. My dad was a great biker, no problems. But my mom and brother and I don't think my sister really had a lot of wreck problems. She must have got it from her dad. My brother, my younger brother, and my mom. Let's just go there before we get into that about myself. My younger brother had a lot of two-wheeled accidents as well. One time he was riding a moped, and I watched him. He borrowed it from a friend, and we were out in their yard, and he was like, he's going along, fast you can get going on a moped at the time, and boom, right front wheel, right in the tree. I see him come up. His body comes up to the handlebars, whack, hits a tree right on the head. It's like a little seedling or sapling, probably sapling, maybe just that big around tree. The whole tree like oh, and thankfully he didn't have any lasting injuries. Of course, I'm sure it hurt like mad and threw him down to the ground and bent the front wheel of the moped. And my dad was a maintenance person in the millwright, and he could weld, and so he welded it bent the front axles instead of, I think I said the wheel. It didn't bend the wheel, but it bent the front axles. Or I shouldn't say axles, it's the fork that comes down. And so he straightened those and got that all fixed back up, and very inexpensively. Another time, and this is kind of classic. We were camping. We were riding. My dad and brother and I. Of course, my brother's several years younger than me. Excuse me, and he was a kid at the time, and I don't know, maybe late teens, early 20s, and my brother's behind us, probably late teens. And we were all like, we had been fishing on this lake at this campground. We were all carrying fishing rods, and reels, and tackle boxes and stuff. And we're riding down through this one part, this path going back from this lake goes through these trees. And I looked just in time to see him. He was behind me. I looked back, and there's lures on the top, like bass lures with big hooks, like it's plastic or rubber frog, a big hook sticking out. I just see him just in time that the lures get caught in one of the pine trees as we went by, and it just yanked him. He didn't let go of it. He kept hold of the gear. It yanked him way off the path, and he just goes flying out through the trees. And we went along there. I'm like, my dad told me, "Where's your brother?" I'm like, "Back there. He's back there in the trees." So he got himself picked up and got back up with us, but it was pretty funny. Another classic thing, couple classic things to show you like how this runs in the family. My mom, though, however, yeah, when she would ride a bike, sometimes we do these family bike outings, and she got too close to a parked car, mind you, and she felt like she might wreck into it. She didn't actually wreck into it. She thought she might. So instead of trying to steer or brake, she threw her hands and her feet in the air and wiped out. Another real classic. This one, I'm thankful that she wasn't severely hurt and it was okay, but it just makes me laugh to this day. The church we went to, they would have a women's Bible study certain days of the week in the morning, and I think I was probably in college or maybe at work by then, and she decided to start riding her bike instead of driving to the Bible studies, and the Bible studies was hosted at this really nice, very old lady in the church, and I'm gonna pull up here, and what would happen is, this is not reserved, I'm moving around, I'm in a reserve spot. I had to move because somebody's gonna pull right in front of me and make a lot of lights and noise and stuff. So my mom goes up there and she's gonna stop her bike and then pull it up on the porch, and instead she wipes out where the little stairs come up to the front porch. I'm just in a parking lot driving around doing this, and she landed out on the porch, and she was bloodied up pretty bad, and she's laying out there. Of course, she's got her Bible and everything with her. She's laying out in the yard, not in the yard, I said, but on the front porch. I got kind of lost my storyline there for a minute with somebody pulling her right beside of me. She landed out on the porch, and the old lady comes to the door because she heard something, and she goes to see it. She's like, "Oh, my lads, what happened to you?" And they help her in, and they're all freaked out because she's this bloody mess from where she just wiped out with her bike on the porch for no apparent reason. So going back myself to some different accidents that I had, one of my classics was, I don't know how old I was, maybe 7 or 8, and I've been watching this guy that was on TV and everything. He was like a daredevil. He probably caught a lot of other people into that kind of thing. I think his name was Evel Knievel, and he would ride motorcycles and jump more and more cars and buses. They'd have a ramp come in. Then he decided he was going to jump Snake River Canyon, which you can't do that on a motorcycle. So he had to have this special rocket-powered motorcycle made. He almost made it over. He's like, see the rockets kick in. He gets part way where it wipes out, or loses power, I should say, before it wipes out. The rocket bike's falling out. He had to jump off in parachutes. He goes flying into the side of the canyon, but he survived, and it was cool. But I was always trying to do stuff like that. So there's this place out in our park by the swimming pool and they had mounted up this dirt from whatever construction they were doing. Not real high, a few feet off the ground, but it would make, several rounds like this. And so every time I rode my bike out to the park, I would go faster and faster, see how fast I could go those mounds. It was like, vroom, vroom, vroom. And it was great, I was like, I'm Evel Knievel, and I'm flying over this. And you'd be flying up off your seat and holding on to those big Stingray handlebars and just barely stand on the bike. And I thought I was really good at it. And so we were riding bikes with my family one day on a family outing at the park. I thought, hey, I'm going to really impress my dad. And I got up to speed. It's just a one-speed bike, but just fast as I could go. And I take off ahead of him, and I'm like going to really impress him. And I hit the first mound, come up, and when the bike comes down, instead of going on up the next round like it always did, the handlebars had started coming loose, probably because I had been running these mounds so many times up and down and flying, and the bars just went over like this. I went over with it, and I got to eat dirt right in front of my dad. Boom. Of course, once they saw I was okay, we all laughed. But, it was a bummer. Here, I thought it was Evel Knievel. So, then there was with my brother. Let me go back to my brother. He was riding a bike one time. He went to get one of these glass bottles of pop. You can still get those before they were really popular. They got rid of them, and then they come back, and then he had the Jones Club sodas and the Jones not Club soda, but Jones cream soda and the Jones. You can still find those some places. And they used to have Pepsi Cola, and they brought Pepsi and Coke and Dr. Pepper and Mountain Dew and everything back, like the originals, put them in glass again. Anyway, he was riding when he was, I would say, middle school probably. He was riding a bike. He went uptown. He got this bottle of pop. He's so glad to have this bottle of pop. He's riding along. He hit a manhole or something. I don't know what he hit. The glass, bottle hit the ground. He fell in it. Cut the crud out of him. So he's like not that severe, but he's got these slices on it, especially on his legs, but he's elsewhere, and there's blood gushing everywhere. And he ran into this girl. She goes, ex-believe, bad word, Cox, what did you do to yourself? So, which is funny enough, because she was like, well said. So I'm in the bathroom at home, because this is when we're younger, we're all still there. I'm in the bathroom at home, trying to use the bathroom. My brother, he comes in, sneaks past my mom. I think she was out in the backyard doing something. He goes in, didn't want her to see it because he didn't want her to panic because he was a pretty bloody mess. He comes in, pound on the door. I'm like, well, I'm using it, man. But I need help. So he comes, I open the door, comes in, he's got blood all over him and rocks stuck in his knees and everything. And I helped him, dig the rocks out and wash it out and get so more presentable before his mom seen it. But that's kind of the things, that we would get into. So, as to some of my accidents, I have to jump ahead here. I jumped out. Once we get a moped, my dad bought this moped when the mopeds were, before they could really go fast. This one, a dude, I think 25 on a good flat surface, but maybe with a wind behind your back, and you could really wind it out and get going maybe close to 30. So I would, of course, as fast as I could go all the time. Right after we got it, I'm coming home, went around the block, whatever, went through home, hit a chuck hole, and it turns the handlebar sideways. It had this nice little mirror on the side of it. Kaboom! That was the end of the mirror. It hurt me a little bit, but not bad. But we kept riding. When I first got it, my brother wanted to try the moped out. Excuse me, not bike, but moped. So he jumps on it. He's a pretty young man. He takes off. He went out of control. He goes out, flying through the yard, up through the lane, up to the yard. We go think he's going to hit something. He didn't. He finally wiped out the yard. But my epic accident with the moped, I think it was on purpose. I can't prove it, but we'll see. There were these, I was going down this alley. I'd find these different paths with the jumps and stuff to run, and then these different alleys that have like nifty little bumps and things you go on, and that look just really cool. So they're back kind of away from things. I'm flying down this alley, 25, 30 mile an hour, whatever, maybe 20. And I come up here, and there's this Volkswagen, like one of the original yellow Volkswagen Beetles. I don't know what it was, late 60s, early 70s. This is way past that, but there were still people driving these. Some kids, they were twin brothers, that I went to school with, as friends with. It wasn't like we were enemies or anything, but I swear, or exclaim, however I put it, I don't really swear, but he waited right till I got beside of him. I'm like gonna go around him. He threw the door open. I'm like, my great moped skills. I swerved and just barely missed the door. If I hit the door, it probably would have taken the door off of that little car. Then I had to pay for that, and had him upset and everything else, and as well as bloodied me up. Who knows what it done to me? But over to the side where I swerved, there was, I don't know what's it be, mounds of dirt, but they'd been digging in the yard or doing construction. There was this mound of dirt, not gigantic, but just big enough that when I'm full speed on a moped and I swerve, up goes the moped airborne. I'm holding onto the death grip onto the handlebars, trying to keep it under control. I'm not going to let loose of the handlebars and go out of control. My whole body comes up off the moped. I'm like, my body comes up kind of like that, almost straight, flying off of it, and I still have a hold of the handlebars, death grip on the handlebars, keeping that dude under control. I come down, whap, on my stomach. Man, that hurt. You know, a moped, it's probably slow by then, slow down maybe 20 mile an hour, maybe 15, but it, you know, whatever. And I'm like, riding this thing. I rode it to stop and never really wiped out. Again, my friend, he gets to the car, he looks, he's like, expletive, Cox, are you alright? You know, and again, I can't prove it, but I think he threw the door up in front of me to see what would happen. Maybe he did or didn't know who I was, but they got to show, you know, they got to see me ride the wild moped ride, kind of like a bucking bronco, and that was cool. So I'm going to cut this one off. I'll catch you in part 2 another day. Again, don't forget to check out Mr. Cox's science videos and animal videos.